Album 5. 5
Yeah,
Alive. What
number
are we
5.
doing?
So we're doing Mission of Burma with their 1982 album Versus.
Versus.
Coming in at number 337 in the 1980s on Best Ever Albums, number 38 in 1982, number 2,155 of all time. It is Mission of Burma's highest rated album on Best Ever Albums, and Mission of Burma comes in at number 1,010 of overall artist rankings on Best Ever Albums. And again, this is not on Rolling Stone's list.
Well, guys, guess what we have? We have a jamma on this one. This was an awesome album. This goes into lots. This was so pleasant a surprise for me because I think I mentioned last week. I said, I have no idea what this is going to sound like. I know it shows up on best of lists. I didn't allow myself to read anything about it. I had no context for what I was going to listen to. And what I listened to was a lot of sounds sonically that I love, both in the moment and later in the decade and in the 90s.
As soon as I listened to this album, I knew that you would like it.
I was going to say, it's like, I was listening to it, I said, this is a John album as John's listening to it right here. But yeah, this, the first thing that came to mind for me was this is somewhat, although I can't say proto because their early albums were at the same time, but this is trotting the same lane that like Sonic Youth does at times and stuff.
That's the first thing I thought of.
Yep, and there's noise rock here, there's some art rock here. I love how there's these discordant guitars and chaotic guitars, but then they pull together in these beautiful moments as well. It's a facet of music I really love, which like you get these, dirty might not be the right word, but these discordant, abrasive guitar sounds that sound like everything's just being played in a mishmash thing. And then it kind of congeals together in these pretty riffs at times or pretty guitar parts. It's a sound of the 80s that is so familiar to me and the stuff that I really loved as I was coming of age in music. And we haven't really heard too much that has done it in the 80s so far. There have been songs here and there, and and some of them have gone into true noise rock, and so this though is that combination of those two sounds. I like this album the entire way through. It's a long album. I will say that the version I listened to was 16 songs long. I don't know if it needs to be that many songs. I think it's probably more like a 12 track disc in my mind, the optimized version of it. But boy, there the first song Secrets like cuts it right off the bat. I love the song Tread 2, which is number 3. Micah at number 7. That's How I Escape My Certain Fate at 12. There's just songs dotted across this album that I just completely connected with. Easy thumbs up. Probably my album of the week, I'd say, for me in terms of my sensibility. I could go on and on about this album more. It's definitely in my top 10 of the decade so far to this point. But I'm curious because we haven't really covered albums like this. And I actually don't know how each of you guys feels about this type of sound, because it is the bands that I love in this genre. I think you guys sort of always, as Josh just did right there, sort of identified as like my type of bands, but I don't think I've ever had really a conversation about it with you guys. So this will be a fun listen for me. What do you think?
I'm with you, man. I love this, and it's
awesome.
This to me sounded very much like a early mid 90s kind of sound. I was surprised this was 80s because I have a buddy from college that loves stuff like this, and I'm sure he would loves these guys. I never heard him play this before.
Yeah,
but,
it's me, dude. That's the other buddy who likes stuff like this.
Yeah, but I have another friend that stands out even more because this is the type of sound that I would just hear him playing stuff like just like the interesting, like on a song like Micah, where you have the drum part like that kind of goes a little offbeat in the one part, and it just throws these little curveballs at you that just really interesting, fast-paced rhythms and sounds that they're doing is it just reminded me so much of the stuff that he loves. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me that you love.
Does he like Husker Du and Fugazi too? That's the other bands that came to mind for me as sound. Yeah,
the other thing
and Gang of Four was the other band.
Yeah,
that came to mind.
Gang of Four. That's a good point. This to me, I'm hearing even though it's kind of all, it's kind of in the same lane, but then when you really pick it apart, I'm just hearing so many different things in here. I'm hearing like, I'm hearing this is there's hardcore in here, like, to me, you know. Like
that's why I said Fugazi.
And that's to me, like, as a genre that I go, oh, I don't really, you know, that doesn't really do anything for me. This does a lot, and I think there's just something about the style of it. Maybe it's the vocals being much more traditional. It's not as like screaming. I mean, he's not. It's not as harsh or abrasive, I guess, as of a sound. It's much more palatable for me. But emo, like, that's another. This is like proto emo in some parts. I'm hearing like early like stuff that Sunny Day Real Estate would kind of do later on, 10 years later. You know, I'm hearing some of that in there.
That's a good point, Matt. Yep,
yeah,
good call.
So, and I don't see emo listed here, but I'm like, it's only some songs too. It's not throughout the whole album. But Japan Droid's a more modern band. There's like very much stuff like this, kind of like that, very, you know, in some ways aggressive, but very very fast, loud type music. Noise rock, all that stuff is in here, and there's just really cool. Like, I really liked Trem 2. I love the guitar part in there, because even though a lot of this is kind of loud and very, you know, lots of just chords just really hammering on the guitar, you can have a song like Trem 2 where it's got this walking guitar line, these notes that are being
reverb.
Played. And reverb. What is reverb? Oh, and reverb. Like, yes, I thought you were talking about the name of a song. Yes, right. I see what you're saying.
It's the sound. Yeah.
Right. You know, and so I thought that was kind of a cool part that makes a song like that stand out, because to me, this type of sound can easily, like, if you hit on that sound too much, it kind of just it makes the album less interesting to me. But when you throw a song like, you know, Trem 2 on there, or Micah, or Einstein's Day, another song that I really like, that have that really boisterous noise sound, but also kind of these other interesting parts that are coming in that make that song unique. I don't know. To me, it just I can differentiate more, and it makes it a much more enjoyable listen to me. John, this album actually is 12 songs long. The what you listened to was the reissue tracks that they did later on. So this is supposed
makes it even better.
Yeah, this ends with "That's How I Escaped My Certain Fate." Is the 12th track on here is the last one you should have listened to. But yeah, that's why I don't listen to, like, anytime I get to one of these and you're looking at it going, oh geez, there's like 18 tracks. That can't, you know, not in 1982. Like, where is it supposed to stop? That's where I'm going to stop, because I don't need to listen to more. You know, especially on a cold listen week where we got 5 albums and then a 6 double album. So no, I like this a lot. This was drawing on a lot of different things. I'm trying to check my notes. Yeah, but that's what stood out, is kind of like that early or that mid 90s kind of, I don't know if it's indie rock. I don't want to say it's indie rock, because it's got other elements. Yeah, post-punk, I guess, right? And I'll tell you this, I know, John, I know you've loved Sonic Youth for many, many years, and that's not a band that I've liked or really know a whole lot about. But if Sonic Youth, if I'm going to get more of this at Sonic Youth, I'm going to be happy. So I'm thumbs up.
It's not exact. There's elements of it. There's just as much Husker Du, who we haven't done yet, and Fugazi, and there's a lot, like Gang of Four, like I said. Pylon, right, was another band that came to mind.
Okay.
I don't want to steal Josh's thunder, but there's others I could do too. There are vestiges of a lot of stuff, and stuff that's coming. A lot of stuff that's coming.
Yeah.
So, what'd you think, Josh?
Well, I'm a tentative thumbs up. I really liked parts of this album a lot, but to get to your question about the genre of music itself, and, you know, kind of the Sonic Youth and everything that's around that, there's something about it that is a little abrasive to me, and I think what it is when they get too droney on the music and the guitars, and they go too long on that. And I'm not saying Mission of Burma does that, but I think that is the noise that kind of keeps me at bay for other bands that are classified as noise rock. I mean, I guess that's an antithetical thought to what noise rock is, and I think that's what people like about it. But there's something about the laying on the guitars and playing too much with reverb that is the thing that a barrier that I have to overcome when listening to this. That being said, I think the album is strong also, and it's due to kind of like the rock energy that they bring to it, and there being multiple guitars. I really like that as well. And I like the distortion too. I think there's kind of a bell curve on distortion with me as well. I think I can like it to a certain extent, but when they go ham on it and like, you know, all the time and the song all over it, and I'm not saying Mission of Burma does that as well, but that's another thing that can grate on me a little bit. Yeah, there's a lot of cool guitar parts on here. Sometimes they're playing in minor keys. I think that might be a key too. When you're droning and in minor keys, that's like a real like turn off to me, I think. And because it just kind of, I guess I feel depressed when it gets like that or something. It kind of, it sends me into a negative emotional space for whatever reason. But I like the energy that this album brings. It's kind of, it feels punk rock to me as well. I know it's post-punk, classified as post-punk, but like the last song, That's How I Escape My Certain Fate. It seems more
New Nails is another one. Yeah,
it feels more upbeat and more kind of like, it's got that punk rock energy, which I really like. The I'm not sure the singers' voices are super strong, but that, I think the guitars and everything kind of overcome that. And so yeah, I'm positive on this. I do remember like when I first started listening to it, my ears perked up and I did kind of respond to it. And so I think it's an album that I will revisit at some point, and interested in seeing kind of where this band goes, and also kind of exploring, you know, what, I mean, this is, like you said, John, this is kind of like one of the first noise rock bands that we've listened to. So I'm interested to see what these other bands bring to the table as well.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting with these guys because I saw that, you know, this is the only album that they really released in the 80s, and then they broke up and were gone for like, I don't know, a couple of decades or whatever, you know, and then they came back with I think they guys left or whatever, and then they rejoined in like the 2000s or whatever. So I think maybe they had an EP before this or something like that, but that's, yeah, they, for some, I don't know the whole lot of their story. I just know that's kind of, they reunited, and that's where the majority of their music came from. But yeah, I probably would say, Josh, if you listen to this more, I just, the more I listen to it, the more I like it. And I just was able to pick so many different types of music that we've covered already. And that's why it's kind of, yeah, it's picking up a lot of things that we've heard already, really starting a new thing that would really come to more fruition at about a decade later or so, when more bands were kind of doing stuff like this. So very, you know, in that way, it's very ahead of its time.
And this is a band too, I don't know any of their music, but I've always heard their name kind of in the periphery of things or in referenced. Another band that I have no idea if they sound like this band or not, but Afghan Wigs, that's another band that's kind of like in that same name checked that I hear and stuff like that, but never have heard them. So I don't know.
Yeah, they're a different sound.
Yeah,
they're a different sound than this. There's so much stuff coming that's gonna sound like this. Like I can't stress enough. A lot of bands that I really love that I know we're covering. We've covered. So I mean, I don't want to just keep running names and sound like that guy, you know. And there's every time I think about it, there's like 2 or 3 other bands. I'm like, oh yeah, then there's gonna be elements of that. But I think this is a nice little entree into what's coming. It's, you know how we've gotten to that on the show sometimes where we get a band and we're like, oh, get ready for this sound because there's going to be a lot that sounds like this. I felt like Television was kind of that in the 70s. You know, in 1977, it's kind of like, okay, get ready. And then we had a whole bunch of bands that kind of, you know, trod that. The Velvets kind of did that in the 60s, the Stooges. There's just different people along the way that kind of paved the path. And I feel like this is the first album we've done that is going to introduce a certain sound that has not been represented but will become dominant in, well, not dominant, but like a sound. New Order was the one, right? It's like, okay, this is going to sound like what a lot of the 80s is going to sound like. So yeah, and this is another one that you're looking at on Spotify that fans also like it. It's a lot of the artists that we've covered already. The Gun Club's on here, you know, like, you know, like Gang of Four, the Feelies, Pylon, Wipers, Soft Feelies,
Boys, you know,
not as much. Wipers, yes.
Wire,
I do.
Wire
like
is a good
those albums that
comparison.
we listen to.
Yep.
Husker Du's on here too, John. Oh, Per Ubu's on here too.
Oh, yeah. That's another. Okay, yeah. Per Ubu was much more abrasive than this, I felt like.
Yes, it was. I like this way more than Per Ubu, but yeah.
Yeah.
So do they not have many albums, Matt? You said, I guess it doesn't look like.
So they don't have.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, they had this from the '80s, right? And then
Okay.
they had. But if you look at best ever albums, they've got an album from 2006, 04, 2012.
So they released this in 82, and then they released their next album in 06. That would be like if we gave up the podcast and we picked it back up 24 years later.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Like, wow. So
Yeah, they have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 studio albums. 1982, 2004, 2006, 2009, and 2012.
I mean, Josh and I would have been in high school if we did that. Like, if we did something and then record it now in our thing. So that's paradigm. It's incredible to think about. So
All they're from Boston, and in 2009, the Boston City Council declared October 4th to be Mission of Burma Day.
Oh, coming
So
up.
there's a not insignificant amount of Boston bands in the 80s, right? You got the Pixies is a Massachusetts band, right?
Yeah.
And what's his name? Jay Mascis, what's his band? Dinosaur Jr.
Dinosaur Jr.
They're a Massachusetts band, right?
Modern Lovers.
Oh,
Modern Lovers are a Massachusetts band.
That's
Yep.
a good essential question. What's the best band from every state? I'll have to think about that.
Yeah, that's a good question. So